Welcome, this is Jackie Cambridge, and in this short video presentation I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Health and Safety at Work Act and statute law. So statute law is the law of the land, it's written down and it's in the form of acts of parliament and sets of regulations. We've looked already at common law, so this is the other side of the legal framework. Statute law is passed by parliament, so it tends to remain in place for quite a considerable period of time. But if we breach statute law, we're committing a crime and it can go to the criminal justice system. So the main piece of health and safety legislation that we're going to look at in this course is called the Health and Safety at Work Act, and this was introduced in 1974. We had legislation before 1974, but it tended to focus on individual industries like the railways, offices, shops, mines, etc. So the Health and Safety at Work Act was different because it gave the same requirements to all industries and all employees and employers, and it aimed to improve some consistency for health and safety. Health and Safety at Work Act has over 85 sections, but we're just going to cover the ones that are specifically within the NGC1 syllabus. So we'll start with Section 2 of the Health and Safety at Work Act. This is the general responsibility of the employer under the Health and Safety at Work Act. If I'm an employer, I'm responsible so far as reasonably practicable for the health and safety of my employees. And if that was all I had, I'd still be standing here and thinking, well, what have I got to do? So the remainder of Section 2 give us a few of the specific things that employers are meant to do. So employers have to provide a safe place of work, a safe working environment, safe access and egress, i.e. coming in and out of the building, some training and information, supervision for our employees, safe plant and equipment, safe use of articles. And if you think of the things that you've already studied, does some of that list seem familiar? If you've already studied common law, under common law we had the requirement to provide a safe place of work, a safe working environment. So what happened when the Health and Safety at Work Act was formulated, those responsibilities were taken, they're still in common law, but they were taken and put into the Health and Safety at Work Act. And what that means is, for instance, I've got to provide safe plant and equipment. If I provide a piece of equipment to my employees and it's defective and they get injured, they could sue me under common law. However, from a Health and Safety at Work Act point of view, just having that equipment in an unsafe condition, the company is breaking the law. So from a statute point of view, you're breaking the law if you don't comply with the Health and Safety at Work Act. You don't have to have actually injured somebody. So the Health and Safety at Work Act Section 2 is my duty to my employees. Section 3 is the employer's duty to other people. So if you think about who are the other people that your organisation might affect, it could be visitors, contractors, members of the public. And we've got to ensure, again, so far as is reasonably practicable, the higher the risk, the more things we need to do to protect people. So Section 2 is about employees, Section 3 is about other people. If you have a building that's your own or is owned by your employer, they may well also have what we call the landlord's responsibilities under Section 4. And Section 4 requires landlords to do what's reasonable to protect non-employees who work there. Now that may seem like a double negative, non-employees who work there. For instance, I've got a building, and if I had some people on a training course here in this room with me, they are employees, but not employees of Cambridge Safety, but they're employees of their own companies. So under Section 4, they're on our premises, so we've got to make sure that the premises and plant are safe for those people who are working here because they've been paid to come on the course, but they're not actually our employees at the time. So if you've got a building or a shared car park or any shared facilities, someone, the landlord or the owner, has got to make sure that those are safe for you as well. Section 6 of the Health and Safety at Work Act covers those of you who manufacture and supply articles and substances for work, and you've got to make sure that they're designed and constructed safely and they're provided with relevant information. Section 6 of the Health and Safety at Work Act is supplemented by now additional consumer legislation, but it set the framework for ensuring that anyone who imports or manufactures or supplies anything has got to make sure it's safe and provided with adequate information. As an employer, Section 9 of the Health and Safety at Work Act requires me to provide personal protective equipment to employees where it's legally required. And you may not think much of that, but prior to 1974, most employees would have provided the tools and equipment, and particularly personal protective equipment, things like safety footwear, shoes, gloves, goggles, etc. Employees would have been responsible to provide that themselves. But the Health and Safety at Work Act says no, if people need that to do the job, then the employer should provide the personal protective equipment that they need. So employers and organisations have got duties under the Health and Safety at Work Act, and if they breach them, they can be committing a crime. But we've got some individual duties as well. So Section 7 of the Health and Safety at Work Act gives me as an employee a duty to take reasonable care of myself by my acts or omissions, to take reasonable care of myself and other people by my acts and omissions. If you remember back to common law, we had an individual duty under common law. And in common law, I've got a duty to you. But in the Health and Safety at Work Act, the duty is extended to me. So if I operate a machine, I remove a guard, I chop my finger off, under Section 7, I'm actually committing a crime and not necessarily would, but could be prosecuted. The other duty that we have under Section 7 is every employee has a duty to cooperate. So if you ask people to follow training, attend a fire drill, attend a health and safety meeting, for instance, they're doing it not just because you ask them, but because there's a legal duty to do that as well. Section 8 of the Health and Safety at Work Act requires anybody, any employee, not to interfere with or misuse anything provided in the interest of safety. So if you provide some personal protective equipment or a fire extinguisher, this is the section that says employees mustn't misuse or abuse it. And if they do, it means they can be committing a criminal offence and could be prosecuted. So we've got employee duties. Just two other parts of the Health and Safety at Work Act before we finish. Section 36 is headed Offences by Others. And it's where an offence is committed by a person due to the act or default of another, either or both may be prosecuted. So that's the wording of the law. What does it actually mean? If you've got two people in a workplace and perhaps there's a machine that's been taken out of service because it's defective, if those two people together decide, okay, we can put that back into service and use it, but only one of the people actually uses the machine, Section 36 says the other person who was part of that activity, even though they didn't personally use the machine, Section 36 means they could be held liable as well. Everybody has duties under the Health and Safety at Work Act, but senior managers and managers have some additional responsibilities, and this is covered by Section 37. If an offence is committed by the consent, connivance or neglect of a senior manager, then they, as well as the body corporate, the company, shall be found guilty of that offence. So what this means is if a company does something, but they do it because of the actions of a senior manager, then the company can be found guilty, as can the senior manager. So for instance, if you've got some electrical equipment and the senior manager says, right, we're going to stop maintaining that, if then things become unsafe in the workplace, the company can be held liable for providing unsafe plant and equipment, but that particular manager could also be held responsible for that and personally prosecuted under the Health and Safety at Work Act. So it's worth remembering, if you breach the Health and Safety at Work Act, you're committing a crime and could be prosecuted. So from a statute law point of view, let's just sort of summarise where we are. So statute law, it's always written down, it's in the form of Acts of Parliament and sets of regulations. Because it is set by Parliament, it tends to stay in place for a considerable period of time. And it's the state, the Health and Safety Executive, who normally take action. Statute law gives the society, the rules of society, the things we want people to do or not do. And if we breach the Health and Safety at Work Act or any statute law, we're committing a crime and we could therefore be punished. So normally, if we breach statute law, it's a crime. It goes to the criminal justice system. We've looked at the Health and Safety at Work Act. The Act is quite considerable, but from a NEBOSH certificate point of view, make sure you're aware of the requirements of Section 2, which are the employer's duties to employees. Section 3, the employer's duty to others. Section 4, the landlord's responsibilities. Section 7 and 8, which cover the responsibilities as us, as employees. Section 9 covers personal protective equipment being provided free of charge. And Section 36 is about offences by others. So two people, if they act together to do something wrong, both can be prosecuted. And finally, Section 37 of the Health and Safety at Work Act is the additional responsibilities that senior managers have, because they've got the power to make things happen in relation to health and safety. So we've had a potted tour of statute law and Health and Safety at Work Act. Hope you found that useful. Thank you.